Michael Carter only wanted a quiet morning, a gallon of milk, a carton of eggs, and a small bouquet of flowers for the veterans at the hospital. His old Army jacket hung loosely over his shoulders, a jacket that carried more weight than most people could imagine. To him, it was just another errand. To the store manager watching from behind the counter, it was something else entirely. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from and make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. Greg Bolton, the market's manager, didn't see a veteran. He didn't see a man of honor. He saw a jacket that looked suspicious and a customer who, in his mind, didn't belong. The store had a sign on the door promising discounts for veterans, but Greg's eyes narrowed as Michael stepped to the counter. "ID won't do," Greg barked. "Take off the jacket. Now." The cashier froze. Customers shifted uncomfortably. Michael's calm eyes held steady as he laid his ID on the counter. "This jacket doesn't hide anything. It carries memories and respect." Greg smirked, tossing the jacket aside, crushing the bouquet of flowers beneath it. "Get out of my store before I have security remove you." The room fell silent. Michael picked up his jacket, smoothed the broken stems of the flowers, and walked to the door without a word. No one in that room knew the truth. The man they had just watched get humiliated wasn't only a veteran. He was the governor of the state. And before the day was over, this store manager's life would be turned upside down in front of everyone. Michael stepped out of the store into the crisp morning air, bouquet stems still bent from the manager's careless toss. His jaw tightened, but his steps were calm. Years of military service had taught him the discipline of silence. He didn't need to shout, didn't need to fight. Some battles were won differently. He pulled out his phone and dialed a private number. "This is Carter. I'll be late to the briefing." "And send Brookside Market's district representative to the store immediately." "Quietly." "Yes, within the hour." He ended the call and stood just outside the entrance, jacket folded neatly over his arm. Customers walked in and out, some avoiding his gaze, others glancing with sympathy but saying nothing. After a few minutes, Michael re-entered the store. He returned to the same checkout line, standing tall but silent. Greg spotted him and stormed over, face red. "Didn't I tell you to leave? You think you can just waltz back in here?" Michael met his glare evenly. "I told you, I'm here to purchase these items, and I'll wait until your district representative arrives." "You'll wait outside," Greg snapped. Michael didn't move. "I'll wait here." The young cashier kept her eyes on the counter, hands trembling. The elderly woman in line crossed her arms tightly, unwilling to leave. Even the security guard hesitated, torn between orders and conscience. Greg leaned closer, voice rising. "Last chance, buddy. Get out before I make you regret it." Michael's voice was steady, calm, unshaken. "You've already made the mistake. I'm giving you one last opportunity to correct it." The air in the store grew heavy. Customers sensed something bigger was at stake than groceries. The door chimed, and a woman in a navy blazer entered briskly. Rachel Ng, District Operations Manager. Her eyes scanned the tense scene immediately. "What's going on here?" she asked firmly. Greg pounced on the opportunity. Perfect timing. This man came in trying to scam us for a discount. He refused to follow store policy, caused a scene, and refused to leave. Rachel turned to Michael, her expression professional. "Sir, can you tell me your side?" Michael calmly explained. "I presented my veteran ID. I was ordered to remove my jacket in front of everyone. When I declined, the manager humiliated me, tossed my jacket onto my flowers, and forced me out." The cashier finally spoke, her voice shaking. "He's telling the truth. He didn't do anything wrong." The guard nodded quietly. "Yeah, I didn't see any theft. I only acted because Greg told me to." Rachel's brows furrowed. "I'll need to see the camera footage immediately." Greg stiffened. "There's no need for that. I told you what happened." "There's every need," Rachel shot back. She disappeared into the office. Minutes later, she returned, folder in hand, her expression grim. "The footage confirms Mr. Carter's account. Greg, you're suspended pending investigation." "What?" Greg exploded. "You're going to believe him over me?" "I'm going to believe the evidence," Rachel said sharply. and the evidence is clear. She turned back to Michael. Sir, your items will be complimentary today. On behalf of the district, I apologize for what happened to you. Michael shook his head. I'll pay full price. This isn't about favors. It's about respect. Rachel hesitated, then nodded. Understood. Michael glanced at his watch. I have a meeting at City Hall shortly. I would like you to join me. This issue is bigger than one store. Rachel blinked, caught off guard by the authority in his tone. City Hall? Yes, Michael said simply. You'll see why. The grand chamber of City Hall carried a different kind of silence. Polished floors, echoing footsteps, cameras stationed in the back. Reporters filled the side benches, flipping through notepads, sensing a story before it even began. Rachel sat nervously in the gallery, clutching her folder. Greg, still fuming from his suspension, had insisted on coming along. Convinced this was all a bureaucratic overreaction he could still talk his way out of. At the center of the long table, a placard read, Governor Michael Carter. Greg saw it and let out a mocking laugh. So what? Our mystery shopper's pretending he's a governor now? Unbelievable. The doors opened. Michael entered, wearing the same faded army jacket, aides at his side. The room stood as he approached the chair with his name on it. He removed his jacket carefully, folded it across the back of the seat, and sat down with calm authority. Greg's smirk faltered. His laugh stuck in his throat. His eyes darted between the placard, the man in the chair, and the cameras now recording every reaction. Michael adjusted the microphone and began. This morning, I went shopping for something simple. Milk, eggs, blueberries, and flowers. A sign on the store promised honor for veterans. Instead, I was asked to strip in public to prove that I deserve respect. When I refused, I was humiliated, my jacket tossed, my flowers crushed, and I was ordered to leave. The room leaned in, hanging on every word. Michael's voice was measured, not angry, but that calm cut deeper than rage. This is not about me, he continued. This is about what too many people experience daily. The cost of assumptions, the danger of bias disguised as policy, and the arrogance of power used carelessly in public spaces. Rachel's stomach twisted. She realized why he had insisted she attend. This was no longer a store dispute. It was about systemic accountability. Michael turned toward her. Ms. Ng, would you share what the footage showed? Rachel rose, her voice steady. The governor's account is accurate. The cameras confirm everything. Effective immediately, we are implementing district-wide reforms. Suspension of the manager, mandatory training for all staff, signage audits, and the creation of a community advisory board. Reporters scribbled furiously. Greg slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. I was doing my job. How was I supposed to know who he was? Michael's calm gaze pinned him. You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them with dignity. The chamber erupted in quiet applause. Michael leaned forward, his voice firmer now. Leadership is tested not when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. What happened this morning wasn't a matter of theft prevention. It was contempt. And contempt corrodes the trust that holds communities together. He turned to the committee members. That's why I'm directing the Attorney General to issue guidance. No public humiliations under guise of loss prevention. Any search must be based on observable evidence, conducted in private, with a witness present. Violators will face penalties and loss of state incentives. Greg's face turned pale. His arrogance had collapsed in the weight of reality. Michael glanced back at him once more. Mr. Bolton, leadership means going last in the chow line and first into accountability. You humiliated a veteran in your store. Now you must say it plainly, in front of the people who saw it. The cameras zoomed in. Greg's lips trembled. His pride fought, but the silence in the room forced his hand. I humiliated a man for no reason, he stammered. I assumed. I was wrong. I'm sorry. The apology was clumsy, but it was real enough to strip him of the last shield of arrogance. Michael leaned back. Let this be a lesson, not only to one man, but to every business and every person with authority. Respect is not optional. It is the first item owed to every customer who walks through a door. The fallout came swiftly. By the afternoon, news outlets carried the story across the state. The headline was simple but heavy. Governor humiliated in local market. Clips from the City Hall chamber circulated online. The moment Greg realized who Michael really was replayed millions of times. At Brookside Market, customers gathered in small groups outside, some angry, some embarrassed they hadn't spoken up sooner. Inside, the cashier wiped her eyes between transactions, replaying the morning in her mind. The security guard, Danny, told anyone who asked, "The cameras don't lie." The man was innocent. Rachel moved quickly. Staff meetings were called, policies rewritten, signs promising respect were printed overnight. She knew this wasn't about saving face. It was about survival. Greg, meanwhile, sat in his office for the last time. His suspension letter was on the desk, his nameplate already removed. For years, he had ruled the store with fear and suspicion. Now, with one mistake, it had all crumbled. He stared at his reflection in the dark monitor, seeing not authority but arrogance exposed. But Michael didn't let the story end there. The next morning, he walked back into the same market. Cameras followed him, but he ignored them. He approached the cashier's counter, laid down his groceries, the same milk, eggs, and blueberries, and placed another bouquet of flowers beside them. This time, no one dared to question him. The line grew quiet as the cashier rang him up. Michael paid full price, then gently pushed the bouquet back toward her. "This is for you and the staff," he said softly, "because dignity isn't just owed to customers. It's owed to workers, too." Her eyes filled with tears. The store, for the first time in years, felt lighter. Michael turned to customers watching. Respect doesn't cost anything, but losing it will cost us everything. He picked up his bag, nodded once, and left. The cameras caught every step. The video would go viral before evening, his words echoing far beyond Brookside. Days later, reform swept through every store in the district. Training sessions were mandatory. Every employee learned. No public accusations, no humiliations, no assumptions based on looks or jackets. Security guards were retrained to intervene with observation, not instinct. At City Hall, Michael signed a directive making those reforms statewide. The papers called it the Brookside Policy. For customers, it meant dignity was protected. For staff, it meant protection from being forced to act on bias. Greg disappeared from the headlines, suspended indefinitely. Some said he left the city. Others claimed he tried to find work, but was turned away each time. His name became less important than the lesson. Arrogance has consequences. Rachel, however, rose in the aftermath. Her honesty at City Hall earned her recognition. She was promoted to oversee compliance across the state, her role now bigger than any single market. Michael's life, meanwhile, returned to its rhythm. Each week, he still visited the VA hospital with fresh flowers. Each week, he still bought his groceries quietly, no cameras, no attention. But everyone who recognized him now whispered the same words. "That's the governor who stood up for us." And that was the point. He hadn't stood up for himself. He had stood up for everyone who had ever been humiliated, ignored, or disrespected in a place that should have welcomed them. The story ended not with punishment, but with change. A single morning, a simple errand, had rewritten policy for thousands. And in every store across the state, a new sign appeared by the entrance. Respect is the first item in every basket. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, tense, shocked, and finally satisfied when justice was served, let your voice be heard. Comment wherever you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Because together, we can keep rewriting the narrative one story at a time.